Every single time it worked. Every single time it worked. And I was like, whoa. And what was really cool was not only seeing the singer be like, what is happening, but also seeing all of their classmates be like, I've never heard that person sing like that before. That was the moment where I thought all the learning I'm doing is paying off massively because I'm not scared. I am Katie. I'm based in Glasgow in Scotland and I teach contemporary singing, so musical theatre and pop mainly. Before Evolve, I was mainly teaching as a sort of side hustle. I really had no clue how to use it as a business. I was still performing at the time, so it was quite inconsistent. It was just as and when. And because of that, I found that I wasn't able to build like a client base, but B, my skills weren't really building because I was just sort of learning things and then I would go away and I would do a job. And then I would not think about teaching for literally months at a time. And so I had this feeling like I was continually going back to square one all the time. And I felt like all I really had then was my instincts, which was fine for a period of time. And then when lockdown hit and I started taking it a bit more seriously, I thought, okay, now I need to actually invest like in my learning. I just started to see the kind of gaps in my knowledge that suddenly felt quite large. And that brought me to a point of realising that I needed to find somewhere like Evolve. I didn't know Evolve existed, but somewhere like here to broaden my own knowledge. The very first thing that I did, I suppose, to dive in was you talking about the movement assessments. And I started implementing bits that I'd learned, and the bits that I was getting basically 100% guarantee that it was always going to work were the movement assessments. I just saw it before my eyes, just again and again, results. So I was like, interesting. I feel like the way you taught it, it just went into my brain. I just would leave every workshop knowing more stuff. That's the only way I can describe it. And then it was very clear how to implement that to see results. The more that I did that, the more I started to see, okay, this is creating change. I think with pedagogy it can be so overwhelming. I found that a lot of the other avenues I looked at, I found them very intimidating. I sometimes felt my imposter syndrome really flared up there. But with Evolve, there was an acceptance of you can come in here no matter where you're at on the journey. And that felt very important to me as someone who already feels overwhelmed and like I'm not good enough a lot of the time. But with you, I mean, you were so like open about the fact that you had to start somewhere and you've got a great way of making quite complex stuff actually seem fairly easy and making it seem accessible, which is amazing. And then I was able to implement it. I was like a kid in a candy shop. It was like a treasure trove of information, right? And then it was throwing up questions, but what was great about that was I then had a place to go with those questions. And that's also what's really good about the program is like no matter what kind of learner you are, there's somewhere for you to go. If you're a more traditional learner, you've got the videos. If you've got questions, you can go on the support group where you can just type a question in and people will always get back to you, which is really cool. And then you've got the group calls where you can actually ask the question and see it being figured out live, which is really cool. Not only that, but watching you, Chris, coach other people on the principles that you're learning in the program. So for me, it just felt like a real circular sort of learning environment where you're learning something, you're then seeing it put into place, and then you learn again. And then it all just keeps going like that. I genuinely feel like I leave every single one going, oh. And then it's weird because I feel like then when I teach that week, I see that thing come up time and time again. And I'm like, I'm so glad I went to that group call because now I can implement this thing. I feel in general, I'm now able to tackle so many things. So if a student walks in and they've got a question, chances are I can answer it. That's the difference really between me now and me then, is that then I'd be quite stressed about the fact that I didn't know and it would send me down this loop of imposter syndrome, like I don't know anything. But now I'm like, I know this, and even if I don't, that's okay because I'll find out. So there's a sense of calm that wasn't there before. Why Buzz? She's my absolute BFF. Why Buzz is so good, and I think, again, in musical theatre land, when I'm finding that a lot of my students who have been trained in musical theatre, even ones who have done a full degree, they've been sort of rushed in their training. So it's cool, even on the very first lesson, let's find mix, right? And actually, when I then take them back and go, cool, let's actually find chest, let's find head, let's find these components. And that was a revelation for me as a singer, never mind as a teacher, but it's really cool to see the benefits of that and then how something like the Y buzz and strengthening up that part of the voice then pays off in the mix anyway. And then I have people coming to me saying my mix is so much stronger. And it's just, again, a cycle of learning. I suppose that's another great thing that now I can say about myself as a teacher, is that I'm able to treat the person in front of me as a person with their own specific needs, with their own specific goals, skill set, anatomy, body. You are a person with your own set of circumstances, so let's meet that person and give them what they need out of the lesson, not what the book might say. And that's a huge shift in my process as well. Before Evolve, I would be listening to the person, but I'd also be thinking, okay, cool, what would I do next in the book? I wasn't really able to go with the flow of the person, and now I'm able to do that, which is pretty cool. You do put a lot of emphasis on that in the programme. Fundamentally, at the heart of the movement series, it's that everybody has different bodies, who therefore will work to make different sounds, and we have to start there in order to understand a voice. And that's what was completely missing for me before. I didn't really understand that. And I get so much success with it now, because I think not only am I able to get a result, but people also feel really seen and heard, because they're like, oh, you've treated me as me, not as just another singer that's walked in here. And I'm able to say to them, what are your goals? What do you want out of the lesson? And I've not just gone, okay, hello, welcome to my lesson, and these are the things I'm going to teach you. Because that's just not serving either of us. As an actor, learning your lines, you need to actually understand what you're trying to say in order to learn the lines properly. Because if you don't understand what you're actually trying to say, you're just like trying to picture the page and you're like trying to figure out what the words are. I think it's very similar here. If you actually understand the fundamentals of it, then you're going to be able to teach it much, much more efficiently than just, what was it again that I was supposed to say in this moment? Because if you then forget your lines, you're then able to continue, right? And you're like, that's fine, I've forgotten the actual words, but I know the sense of it. And it's the same in the teaching room, right? If a student then says to you, why are we doing this? You need to be able to say why you're doing it. Not just because I thought this was what I had to do, or this is because of what the book said to do. I had a really cool experience where I got asked to come in and do like a performance class. It's the juniors of the conservatoire here. They're like preparing to audition for the undergrad. So they each get up for 10 minutes and sing, and you work on it. And again, that sort of environment would have thrown me before, because it's expected of you to knock it out the park, boom, 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 quick change. Whereas obviously one-to-one, you've got more time to instigate that change. So that kind of high pressure environment would have been quite scary. But they each got up, and I felt like in that moment I just need to really quickly distill what I know. I used the movement series and I just looked at the patterns that were in front of me, and honestly every single time it worked. Every single time it worked, and I was like, whoa. And what was really cool was not only seeing the singer be like, what is happening, but also seeing all of their classmates be like, I've never heard that person sing like that before. And so we got to the end of the class, and the ones that hadn't got up were really gutted, because they were like, oh, we've not had a chance to do it. And I kind of came home that day, and my husband said to me, how was your day? And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, I smashed that. I just felt, I was on fire. I just smashed it. Every single one got up, and I was like, boom. I felt like I was in a game of tennis, just like boom. And I said to him at that point, that was the moment where I thought all the learning I'm doing is paying off massively, because I'm not scared, I'm just kind of doing the thing. And that's a pretty cool place to be in. What's really cool about investing in a program like this is that it does make you see that the possibilities are endless, which is very cool. Being an actor for so long where things were totally out of my control and I was just waiting for a job to come in. What's been so nice about this is seeing that if I do put the work in, then I am going to see results. It's as simple as that. You've done all the hard work, Chris. Like, you've done it all. You've literally laid it right out there in front of us. And so all I need to do is stay present in it and dip in and out and implement the things. And I do see progress and change, which ultimately then does reflect back in my business, in the amount of students that I have, in my success rate, in the amount of money that I make. Like, it just keeps going. And that's what I find really exciting about it. And that's what I would say to other teachers, is if you're thinking about it, do it, because you can go in whatever direction you want to go in, but you need to have that knowledge there. And once you have that knowledge there, you can do with it as you wish. The other thing is that doing a program like this, not only do you have the technical support, but also the business support, which obviously I'm not like 100% sure whether you'd get that on an MA program, for example, how to actually put this into a business model and make a job out of it and make money out of it. And I think I've massively benefited from that too, starting from a place where I was just doing this as a side hustle to like now being in a place where it is my main source of income. Without this and without somewhere to go and ask, how do I do that? I don't know that I would have had the confidence to make that shift. If you are a teacher that is looking for a place where you will learn, but you will also learn how to take the stuff you're learning and make it into a business, then this is the place to do that.